I want to kind of quickly run down some of the stuff that's going to happen this Sunday at Survivor Series and just kind of get your take on it quickly if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
So they're doing the two matches that I think on the undercard are really interesting people there's the Intercontinental Championship match with Sami Zayn against The Miz. If Sami Zayn wins, the IC title goes to Raw, and then Brian Kendrick against Kalisto for the Cruiserweight title, and if Kalisto wins the title, the Cruiserweight division goes to SmackDown. Do you think that either of these are going to... Are either things going to change? Is the IC title going to go to Raw? Is the Cruiserweight division going to go to SmackDown? Do you see either of these things actually playing out on Sunday?
I can see it's sort of... I mean, the thing is, if the Cruiserweight division goes over, all the existing feuds go over. Because, I mean, with Kendrick, they've actually set stuff up with Noam Dar and with Rich Swann. So he's actually got two challengers really set up there, hasn't he? That he's got, like, heat with. So, I mean, if... Mind you, hang on a minute. No, that's wrong, because that would mean then if Kalisto beats Kendrick, then Kalisto will be champ. And then Kendrick won't be able to defend against the two people I've just mentioned. So,
as you can see, we do these podcasts, because you get to figure it out while you talk.
That's it. As you can see, he didn't run this question by me beforehand.
I mean, Brian Kendrick would be on SmackDown, but he wouldn't be the champion.
Wouldn't be the champion. So I think Kendrick is going to retain the belt. Also, it just feels like the Kalisto thing, he's just come back, and that would just be something that would just come from out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Kalisto's clearly a guy that they don't value. I mean, okay, they don't really value the Cruiserweight division either. So, I mean, he could win. He could beat Kendrick. But I think Kendrick's going to retain the title and then go on to battle Rich Swann and Noam Dar. That's my prediction. As for the Intercontinental title, someone on the Power Slam Online Facebook page pointed this out. And why the hell did they take the belt off The Miz in the first place? Why did they make Dolph Ziggler champion at No Mercy? In hindsight, it seems absolutely pointless.
But do you think that it's more... I mean, because I think that The Miz has been just an absolute beacon of good stuff on SmackDown. Like I
agree. Absolutely, I agree, yeah.
But it did feel like it got to a point where Ziggler kind of has to win. You know, because if he doesn't, what story are you telling with him? But it's funny because as soon as he did win, I was kind of like, I'm kind of ready for it to go back on The Miz now. Like, I was, you know, so I mean, maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask because I kind of understand the theory of why they've done. I mean, I think I understand it, but you know, for me, it's I think Dolph Ziggler just, I like him, but I think The Miz has so much more he can do with the championship. I
absolutely agree. I mean, to me, it was like Dolph Ziggler should have lost that match at No Mercy. And then Miz could have retained the title and they could have made him champ and he could have possibly threatened the Honky Tonk Man's reign. I think that would have been an absolute heat-seeking missile. It really would have been. Mm-hmm. And Miz, what I like about Miz is that he is a true heel. He's not out there seeking laughs. He wants people to boo him. He wants to be hated. You know, that is his goal. And that's something that he achieves when he's out there. He's not some funny heel. You know, he's a guy that really wants to provoke hatred and rage. So if you look back at the No Mercy match, if Ziggler put his career up, so of course Ziggler wins the title, perhaps due to the stipulation, it was a hell of a match. It was the highlight of No Mercy, in my opinion. I mean, it was really dramatic, and it really felt like Dolph came out of that match with a load more credibility. I mean, he was really reheated. I mean, maybe he wasn't to 2013 levels. Remember when they gave him the title the night after WrestleMania?
Yeah, that was tremendous. That was great.
That's it. I mean, Dolph was just like, you know, it was like, wow, this guy is over. So it felt like when Dolph beat The Miz, that it was mission accomplished. You know, they'd use these stipulations as they should be used, not just thrown out there willy-nilly. I mean, a stipulation is supposed to accomplish something. It's supposed to get someone over, isn't it? And it really, to me, WWE did not capitalize on Dolph, on the momentum and the interest and the emotional connection that people had with Dolph Ziggler after that match. I mean, they just didn't. I mean, Dolph right now should be a guy. He should have been the guy that replaced Shane McMahon as the last man of Team SmackDown. I mean, they should have built on that No Mercy victory to make Dolph a bigger star. Once again, they haven't done that because building stars is something, as everyone knows, they're not very good at anymore. Because, clearly, I don't think it's something that they're not very good at. It's something they just don't seem interested in.
It seems that they get a little bit interested in it, and then it just falls by the wayside. It
does.
It begins, obviously. So who do you think the Miz retains the IC title at Survivor Series, or do you think Sami Zayn takes it to Raw?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to get to... So the Miz is now champion again. So we're now back to where we were before No Mercy, only Miz now isn't going to challenge the Honky Tonk Man for his reign. And because Miz just won the belt on SmackDown this week, we're just getting to the use of the idea of him being champ, and he's facing Sami Zayn. Now, Sami Zayn, up until a week last Monday when he beat Rusev, Sami Zayn was a guy whose career was meandering. He was going nowhere. He was in this bizarre short-term program with Braun Strowman, which was then dropped. So suddenly Sami Zayn's now a winner. To be honest with you, I would have liked to have seen Rusev beat Sami Zayn on Raw, and then him challenge for the IC title, and then Rusev and Lana do the babyface turn against Miz and Maurice. That's what I would have liked to have seen at Survivor Series. I think that would have been an amazing match and just something very memorable. We've been talking throughout this podcast about memorable Survivor Series happenings. And if Rusev had turned babyface while winning the belt from Miz, that would have been a Survivor Series moment.
Get on the booking team, Finn. Get on there.
Rusev's
one of my favourites. So anything involving Rusev, I'm a huge fan of because I think he's just absolutely great.
I mean, when he did that self-deprecating humour, when he was showing his family pictures, I mean, he was a riot, wasn't he? I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. So I think really Miz may well drop the title to Sami Zayn because, where is he going to really go with the IC title now? If he tries to do another lengthy reign, it's just going to be like recycling what he's done previously. So I can see Sami Zayn winning the title from Miz on Sunday. I can see that happening.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you on one thing here, just with my predictions. I feel like they either do both or they do neither. I feel like that either the IC title goes to Raw and the Cruiserweights go to SmackDown, or neither happens. I would be surprised if Raw ended up with the Cruiserweights, the US, the IC, the tag, the women in the world. It's not impossible because we know that they've done this before. But it'll be. I think it has added a layer of interest to the undercard matches, which I think Zayn and Ziggler maybe would have been a better match. But in saying that, I think Miz has actually upped his game as well in the ring.
Oh yeah,
I think he really has improved.
I agree, absolutely. I mean, I think the guy's a real good all-rounder. I mean, I enjoyed the match on SmackDown this week. I mean, it wasn't as good as the No Mercy match, but I mean, that was a very high standard, really an unfair comparison to make. I thought the match on SmackDown this week had a really strong dramatic atmosphere, which you don't often get from a WWE TV match, and that really had it. So yeah, I mean, whether Miz retains or loses the title, he's going to be all right. But, I mean, if he retains the belt, it's like, what's he going to do? We've been here. We've been here before this year. So maybe it's time he dropped the belt and did something different.
Now, when we started talking about Survivor Series, one of the big things that you talked about when you were younger, a younger Finn in pre-Power Slam days, was the 20-man tag team match, and they are doing one again this Sunday. Now, while the roster of tag teams isn't quite the Heart Foundation, Demolition, and the Bulldogs, there are some really good teams in this. We've got the New Day and the Club, and Sheamus and Cesaro are very good in the ring. We've got the Enzo and Cass popularity factor, American Alpha, the Usos, Heath Slater and Rhino, all these teams going on. I mean, I know I'm not going to try and pretend that this is like some hugely important match, but is it like... I mean, it seems like it's at least fun for this generation to get that kind of tag team match that we got when we were younger.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, I want to see American Alpha really shine in this match because since they got brought up, they've done so little with them. It's just, I just cannot believe how little they have done with those two guys, Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, and they were dynamite in NXT. I mean, surely, I don't see how anyone could disagree with that statement. So I want to see American Alpha really come out of that, really with like tremendous amounts of sort of energy and momentum and credibility as well. I'd like to see them score a few eliminations and really come out of that as the guys who are going to be the next champs. I mean, the Rhino Heath Slater thing, that was fun for a few weeks, but that's had its day.
So they need to get, right?
Yes, they need to get the belts on a credible team. I want to see them put the belt. I want American Alpha to win the belts. They looked like they were going to do something with the Usos, but then they didn't really go anywhere with that either, which I found a bit odd. One thing I want to say, I think Mojo Rawley has really improved tremendously this year. I don't see Mojo and Zack Ryder, Hype Bros, as tag team champs. But I will say that Mojo Rawley was a guy when he was in NXT. He didn't really look like he knew what he was doing. And he's really applied himself and he's really impressed me in his matches on TV this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Not sure how far he can go in the WWE system, mind you. But I just would like to say that, Mojo, good on him. He's really upped his game there.
We don't hear a lot of Mojo love, so it's good to hear some love. It's why I feel really bad because I've slagged him off all year, and then I met him last week for a press thing, and I was like, oh, he's a really nice guy, and he's trying hard, and I'm, oh god.
Yeah, he's somebody that he's the sort of person that you can pick him apart. But if you go back and look at what he was doing a couple of years ago in NXT, and you contrast that with what he's doing now, there is a huge difference. So I'm not saying he's going to.
I think it's more because the idea of someone saying "get hyped" to someone I would never choose to associate with. So maybe I'm just taking my proclivities of friendships too far.
That's fair. Now you put it that way, Kenny. That's fair enough.
But they're also doing the 5-on-5 women's match, SmackDown Live against Team Raw. A lot of good women in here. You've got Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha, and Becky Lynch. You've got people like Alexa Bliss and Carmella who are trying to get up there in the ladder. You've got Nikki Bella who hasn't really got to have that classic showing yet since she returned at SummerSlam. Nia Jax, who I really like because she's different. She's got a different look and stuff. I feel this could be like a little bit of a dark horse in the stuff that we could actually get to see in the ring with some of these women.
I was definitely impressed with the reaction to the Nikki Bella and Charlotte brawl on SmackDown this week. Fans really, that was a hot crowd on SmackDown anyway. A tremendous atmosphere on SmackDown this week. Mm-hmm. And the fans really reacted very favorably to the Raw versus SmackDown, 5-on-5 brawl between all the different women who are going to be in the Survivor Series match this Sunday. So yeah, it should be a good match. Hopefully they'll get 13 minutes. I just hope they're not given 8 minutes or something and have to rush through everything. Sometimes in the past the women have been they've drawn the short straw and been put in an impossible position where they've got to do all these eliminations in fewer than 10 minutes, and they've really got no chance. I think attitudes are definitely different in WWE now in that they've got more confidence in the women. We've seen that with them having longer matches this year. Obviously, Sasha Banks and Charlotte closed Hell in a Cell last month. So I'm hoping they get ample time to really strut the stuff, go out there and really show what they're made of. Yeah, I think it can be a good match. I'm a fan of Alexa Bliss. I think she's a great character. I want to see Nia Jax show me more. She's somebody that really seems quite bland as a character. Mm-hmm. We still don't really know who she is. People are not really reacting to her. So I think a show of force this weekend will go a long way towards getting her over. I think Charlotte has done very well since Ric Flair was sent packing. That's been the best thing that's happened to her career all year. She's no longer relying on him and has really become her. Her character is pretty much sort of like a female version of Rick, and she does a lot of his mannerisms, a lot of his bumps, and a lot of things that he used to do in the ring. But at least she is her own woman now out there. And that might seem like a contradiction, I know. But, to me, she's out there and she's trying to become, the character that she is. She's the queen. She's trying to become the star that she says she is. And I think she's made tremendous progress this year. Who else am I impressed with in that match? Bailey, we still
She's
don't.
had a tough year.
She's had a tough year. We still don't really know. I'm still not convinced that WWE, main roster WWE, believes in this person. I mean, she scored the win over Charlotte on last week's Raw in that 6-woman match. But the week prior to that, she'd been hammered by Nia Jax when Nia Jax returned. So, we've been getting a lot of mixed signals from WWE about Bailey, whether they rate her or they don't rate her. And hopefully we'll get some answers this weekend.
And, I mean, this could be, again, a sole podcast on this match. It is the battle for brand supremacy, Raw versus SmackDown. On Team Raw, you got Kevin Owens, the Universal Champion, or the Champion of the Galaxy, as Daniel Bryan would say, along with Chris Jericho, his best friend, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Braun Strowman. And on SmackDown, you have Shane McMahon heading up the team with AJ Styles, the World Champion, Dean Ambrose. You've also got the Wyatts with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, and the mascot, James Ellsworth. I thought they had a very interesting, strong segment on Monday night where they had the SmackDown guys invade and they had some sort of back and forth with all the guys. Then they had the State of the Universe thing where Bryan and Foley just completely go off script.
Yeah, they said they did. They did.
I mean, I loved it, because Mick Foley just seemed to he was talking about how Stephanie's a great person, and I'm not going to try and even say Stephanie is not a great person because I don't know her. I don't know what she's like as a person, and she does do a lot of great things for charity, so I don't want to take that away. But as an on-screen character, she's appalling. So
she is the classic bully. This is the company that preaches, be a star. Yeah, that's it. And she is the antithesis of that.
And so they've been and it's so funny because you've got Foley who he starts telling this story about her being a great person and how he had he'd written something about her for a book about her being good, and then he just goes off topic, and then him and Daniel Bryan start going at it about being general managers. I feel like there is some heat to this stuff going in. It's only been 3 or 4 months since the roster split up, but there's a lot of interest in this match. The Undertaker returned on SmackDown and sort of tried to do a rally the troops chat, and I guess kind of mentioned that he's returning in some form. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of interest going into this match. Have they managed to build this up enough with the rival GMs, the rival commissioners, the rival wrestlers to make you interested in this match on Sunday?
I think SmackDown this week did more to make me interested in it than I was before SmackDown aired. The segment on Raw, I think some of it was just a bit sort of comical. I mean, we had the stuff, going on the list. I think he put James Ellsworth on the list, Chris Jericho. Who else went on the list? Was it? I forget who went on.
AJ Styles' hair went on the list.
AJ Styles' soccer mom hair, that's right. That went on the list. And it was just this is just to me, it just degenerated into a bit of a clown show. So the whole Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt thing has not yet been explained. All we've had is Randy Orton saying, if you can't beat them, join them. That was his explanation for why he'd, signed a pact with Bray Wyatt. Can't beat him, join him. Bray Wyatt loses to everyone. So that was just all bizarre. So I still don't understand the Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt thing. I mean, you would think that Randy would don a boiler suit. Remember when they did the angle back in, was it 2014 when Daniel Bryan briefly joined the Wyatt family? Do you remember that, Kenny?
I do remember that. He was a Wyatt for a week.
That's right. That's right. So Randy's lasted longer than that, but at least he donned a smelly boiler suit and looked like he was, getting into character there. Yeah. I mean, Randy there just he looks like he's just come from Tony and Guy, doesn't he? Every time he's just come from the male grooming salon each time we see him at a WWE event. So I mean, it's I don't really know what to make of that. In many ways, why you've got to ask, why are Raw and SmackDown battling? I mean, do you remember bragging rights back in 2010? They had a similar thing there, Raw versus SmackDown, but at least they were competing for this big trophy. I mean, it all seemed a bit pointless when you look back on it. Why are these? And they were all there wearing, the Raw team were wearing red T-shirts, SmackDown team were wearing blue T-shirts, just like they were this week. So, you look back and think, well, why exactly? It's almost like they're doing this because we don't have any other ideas. So this is what we're going to do. Raw versus SmackDown doesn't really feel like anything's at stake. That's my view on it. I mean, there's enough talent in the ring that I think it'll be a good match. I think with The Undertaker saying I will not be defined by WrestleMania on this week's SmackDown does indicate that he'll do something at the Royal Rumble. You know, lots of people are speculating that perhaps AJ Styles will turn on his team and then Undertaker will target Styles and they'll have a match at Royal Rumble. That's one thing that lots of people have mentioned, and that does sound plausible. But, you know, that would then make the match memorable if Styles turns on his team. But why exactly would he turn on his team? Since this is supposed to be Raw versus SmackDown. I don't really think it's been stressed or emphasized enough why this is happening or why each side needs to win. I think that's been the flaw in the storytelling. We haven't really been given anything to work with there.
So what would be the sort of best case scenario for Sunday for that match?
I don't know, really. I just want to say one more thing. We've said about we know why the Cruiserweight division match is taking place between Kendrick and Kalisto. Something is at stake in that match. As you said, you know, these things with the IC title moving over, if Sami Zayn wins and the Cruiserweight division moving over from Raw to SmackDown, if Kalisto wins, there's something actually at stake in those two matches. But this, I don't know whether this... I think this 5-on-5 match will go on last because I don't think they'll have tremendous amount of faith in Goldberg versus Lesnar. Hopefully they'll keep that match short, given the way that Goldberg was breathing. He was breathing really heavily on Raw on Monday after he'd thrown all those security men out of the ring, which, you know, does make, I mean, he's nearly 50. I mean, okay, he's in great shape, but his stamina, you know, it is definitely a question mark after that performance on Monday. So I think the 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown men's match will go on last. So that will be the show closer. I think the match will be really good. I think Raw will win after Styles turns heel on his team. And that will then set something up. Hopefully the match will set other things up and there'll be other, you know... storyline development. Yeah, storyline developments within the match. That's what Survivor Series traditionally was the show that set up WrestleMania matches. So that's ideally what I'd like to see from this 5-on-5 match is at least one, hopefully two, maybe even three WrestleMania, seed planted for 3 WrestleMania matches to give us a storyline that we can really sink our teeth into. But just to go back to what I said before, it's sort of, there wasn't really a reason when you think about it, Kenny, for this match to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is about the GMs and the commissioners, you know, and I guess it is that kind of like, you know, they're saying it's to prove who the better brand is, but, you know, I think everybody knows that SmackDown is the superior show, in the sense that that's the one that everybody's talking about all the time. I think what I would like to see personally is that I kind of have enjoyed the narrative of, you know, Daniel Bryan saying that on Raw the part-timers come back and take up segments, but on SmackDown they're coming to help the show. Or SmackDown always talks about giving guys opportunity, and I feel like, I hope that they continue that going into WrestleMania season. You know, so like with Raw, you know, do what you want. Have your world title match be Triple H and Seth Rollins if that's what you want it to be. That's fine. But for SmackDown, I want to see them stick to the narrative that Shane and Bryan, you know, adhere to, because I think it's a really good narrative of SmackDown being the different show. And like, you know, we were talking about off air before, you know, the part-time era, and I think it would be nice if SmackDown was like the brand that didn't do that.
Well, yeah, the only thing is we've got Shane McMahon as a member of the team. That's the only thing that sort of lets that down.
It is a problem. I mean, I think the thing with Shane, you know, I like your theory on Miz a lot because Miz is great, but I think the SmackDown roster is quite bare.
Yes.
And I do think that Shane being in the match makes it feel like a bigger match, you know, and there is an element of him being in there trying to rally the troops, which is good. I think it's all going to depend on, as long as we're not seeing Shane McMahon as the sole survivor or Shane McMahon as the last guy in the ring. That's the fear. We don't want to get into 2009 Shane McMahon, who was able to put Randy Orton away with ease.
Exactly. But I mean, the other thing that is slightly worrying though is that the spectre of the Shane McMahon versus Brock Lesnar match.
It is, and I'm the wrong. See, I feel quite bad because I'm actually quite into the idea of that match, but that's only because I don't think there's anybody on the roster right now that really could do the Lesnar match. I mean, I think you could. There's talk of Samoa Joe coming up, because if he doesn't beat Nakamura at TakeOver, what is there left for him to do in NXT?
Exactly. Yeah, he really needs to come up after this weekend, because I can't see him defeating Nakamura, because that again would be just recycling, and that's something NXT generally doesn't do. So I think Joe will come up, but you're right. I mean, I don't see him as a credible threat to Lesnar either. I mean, the guy that could have been was Rusev, but they've blown that now.
Yeah. So it's. But I do want to ask you about this. So speaking of Lesnar, he is obviously in what is billed as one of the main events, fantasy warfare and all that sort of stuff. And I think when they had announced that Goldberg was coming back, I'll be honest, I was not excited about it. I was like, oh, another part-timer coming back and all that sort of stuff. But Goldberg has won me round completely. Like I really enjoy his appearances. I think he feels that he does feel a bit like a superhero to me. And it's maybe it's because we don't really have any on the roster right now that are working, that it kind of, a 49-year-old Bill Goldberg all of a sudden makes you happy. But here's my question for you, and this is something that I've heard from a lot of people. The consensus from the people that I've spoken to is that there is an excitement about this match. There is a trepidation about Goldberg's in-ring shape.
Yes.
As well as how the Toronto crowd are going to react. But here's the big question. What is the finish to this? Because with Goldberg, I mean, as much as we sort of talk about part-timers and stuff like that, I think they should be using Goldberg again. If he's able to have a good match, he's a name. He's very popular with the crowd. There's maybe more mileage in him, but also with Brock Lesnar, are they going to have him lose? What do they do in this match?
It's a very good question, Kenny, and I don't have the answer because, as we know, Lesnar put Goldberg over at WrestleMania 20 in 2004. Lesnar was originally scheduled to win that match until, of course, he announced to Vince McMahon that he was leaving after the show. So they changed the finish and Goldberg went over. Of course, it was Goldberg's last match for the company as well. So to me, if you look at the way they presented Lesnar as this unstoppable force who beats everyone, it doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense for the guy that's been presented like that and who's sticking around to lose. Also, by the same token, it's hard, Goldberg's coming back specifically so his son can watch him wrestle. So, presumably he's smartened his son up and his son knows it's a work. He's probably said to him, son, I'm getting all this money, doesn't matter that I lose. Doesn't matter that the kids at school say your dad's a loser. Look at all this money we're going to get. I'm going to leave it to you. When you look at it, it is a fascinating match in when you look at who's going over. And presumably, well, he can't do a non-finish. Someone's got to get pinned. Mm-hmm. You could say Shane McMahon will come out and he'll do something to Lesnar to then settle the WrestleMania match. Obviously, we had the Shane McMahon-Lesnar confrontation at SummerSlam, and Shane has not confronted Lesnar since then, has he?
No.
So if they are doing a Shane versus Lesnar match at WrestleMania, which lots of people are saying is on the cards, then maybe Shane will be involved in the finish. I'm not really sure. It's possible that they've got a lot of distractions planned. Maybe they're thinking, hang on a minute, Goldberg's nearly 50.
Smoke and mirrors wouldn't be the worst thing for him in that case.
Yeah, exactly. We can't trust him to do a long match by himself. We need a lot of add-ons, very much like the Sting versus Triple H match at WrestleMania, where we had all the people at ringside and all these devices which were designed to distract us from what was happening in the ring, just in case what happened in the ring was a shambles. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching the match just to see how they're gonna pull it off.
So who is your prediction?
I mean, I think it's got to be. I mean, you've got to figure that Lesnar's going over. He's got to be going over, because what purpose does it serve for Goldberg to win twice?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm with you. I do feel Lesnar's going to get the win. I mean, I'll be honest, and this is my my fantasy booking that I come up with. I think that Goldberg should be on WrestleMania next year. I think he probably should. I think there's other guys he could work with. You could go back to the Rusev thing, because Rusev did have the angle with him last week. There's other stuff he could do, and I think he's popular enough that people would probably want to see him again. But I don't know how you do it if he just gets beaten by Lesnar. But maybe he has one and done. Maybe that's all they're going to do. But I'm hopeful that they've got a good finish in mind. Hopefully we're not reaching a Ryback CM Punk 2012 situation.
Or hopefully it's not going to be a finish where Lesnar pounds Goldberg's head in with the point of his elbow and busts him open and gives him a concussion.
Oh God, imagine. But I think the thing about Survivor Series this Sunday is that a lot of people are interested in the show. And
I agree. I absolutely agree. Yeah, and whether. The Goldberg-Lesnar thing, it's been booked for the purpose of getting lapsed fans to come back and watch the product. I mean, that's what the idea is. And it does feel like a big show as a result of their presence on it. Feels like a major, major event. It feels probably bigger than SummerSlam, maybe.
It does, and the thing is, coming out of this show, it's not just a case of you were talking about the men's match, maybe building some WrestleMania stories, but let's not forget that Royal Rumble is now going to be in the Alamo Dome. That's going to be a big show. They need to build stuff for that. They need to build stuff for WrestleMania. So there's a very interesting few months ahead for WWE and how they plan to utilize their two rosters of talent going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm hoping for a storyline packed show that really, I mean, you look at the last few WWE pay-per-views. I mean, certainly Hell in a Cell, you watch it, and when it ended, you thought, well, what does that set up? I mean, all it set up was Jericho versus Seth Rollins, which of course went nowhere because they'd already done that match anyway. So I'm hoping that Survivor Series is really going to be like one of those sort of, events from many years ago where it really, creates a lot of scope and a lot of talking points, the one thing that wrestling fans love more than any other, and we've been doing it really for the last hour and a half, is fantasy booking. That's the thing that wrestling fans really, really enjoy doing. Where's this going to go? Well, what will happen if this person faces this person? Oh, well, what happens if this guy beats this guy? And I don't think WWE creates enough of those sort of potential scenarios for people to really salivate over. And I'm hoping that Survivor Series is really going to deliver in that department.